Oh my god. The things we do for cosplay. Hey everyone, in today's vlog, I'm going to start working on Aloy's vest, and in order to do that, I'm going to start off by making a mock-up. Because the material that the top is made out of, it's pretty expensive. I don't want to be, you know, cutting into that and messing up and needing to buy some more. And again, I'll make sure to link the patterns that I'm using down below, as well as all of the other previous vlogs if you're interested in watching those. Now, one thing that I should note is that these patterns that I'm using, they're not my size, and that's totally fine. It says that in the, you know, Etsy listing that you're going to have to size these up and down according to your body type. So that's why whenever I'm tracing around these patterns, you see me kind of adding in a little bit of seam allowance on the edges. I'm doing this because I can kind of eyeball how much fabric I need to add on for it to fit me. But if you want to do this in a more, like, I guess, cohesive and more easy to understand way, a way that you can do this is you can take two pens or two whatever you're using to trace your patterns with, tie them together with either like a hairband or a rubber band, and it will give you the perfect amount of seam allowance in order to size things up. Now, what I'm doing here is not scientific. Like, again, I just know how much I need to eyeball to add onto the fabric in order for it to fit me. So I would advise, if you're, you know, really looking into how to size up patterns to fit you, that you check out some other videos. So now that I've got all of my mock-up pieces all sized up correctly and cut out, I am then going to take them over to my sewing machine and sew them all together with a long straight stitch, and this is usually referred to as a basting stitch. Essentially, I am just sewing it together in such a way that it will be easy for me to seam rip it later so that I can use these actual pieces of fabric to use as templates for my suede. And once I've got all of the pieces of my mock-up sewn together, it's time to try it on. And unfortunately, it looks like the hole that my head has to go through is just a little bit too small. And that's okay, that's why I'm making a mock-up. So I just take it over to my desk and I cut away some of the fabric so that I can get my head through it, and I try it on again, and everything looks like it's fitting good now. So I got the mock-up done for the vest. I didn't do the sleeves yet just because I really wanted to like refine the vest part first, and then I'll figure out the little sleeve cap things later. Everything fits. I was hoping to maybe cut the suede out, but there's something going on with my sewing machine. I think I need to like clean it or something, because it was really struggling to sew these pieces together. So I want to figure that out before I put the really expensive fabric suede into it. Figured out what my issue was with the sewing machine. It is because I have been sewing with a stretch needle this entire time. All of my fabrics have not been stretch fabric at all. So this is just a note to anyone that's sewing out there. Make sure you check what needle you're using whenever you're sewing with stuff. So no wonder all of my sewing like on that mock-up was like really crappy. So I'm gonna head out to JoAnn's right now. I'm gonna go pick up a leather needle, and I'm probably gonna pick up some extra threads because I'm out of some stuff. Oh my god, how did I do this? Oh my god. I think I'm also going to look at the fur that they have there as well, because I do need fur for like the capelet that's on Aloy's back and along her bracers. I spent more than I wanted to at JoAnn's, but isn't that pretty much always the case whenever you go in there? I ended up finding a fur that I really liked for Aloy's cape as well as her gauntlets, and I got a yard of it. To be honest, I probably could have gotten away with just doing half a yard. I also got some of the leather needles. That was the whole reason that I went into the damn store in the first place. And whenever I was getting thread, I noticed that they had a buy 3 get 2 free deal on the thread. So I ended up getting a dark brown as well as like a tan color here. And I used that deal to kind of stock up on some black thread that you probably saw me drop all over the place in the store, as well as a spool of white thread. And the last things I got were a seam ripper, because funny enough, I have lost my seam ripper. I don't know where it is. I wish I could find it because it's lime green and this is sadly blue, but what are you gonna do? And the last thing I got was this awl, and I figured that this will be better to punch holes in my fabric whenever I'm doing my suede lace, as opposed to snipping it with the end of my fabric scissors, which this will give me a consistent hole every single time. That's what she said. Anyways, I'm gonna put these leather needles into my sewing machine and maybe cut out some suede. So cutting out the suede is pretty simple and pretty similar to cutting out the mock-up pieces. I start out by rolling out my suede on my surface and just making sure that it's, you know, weighed down so that it doesn't move around a lot on me. And I take those mock-up pieces and I place them onto the suede. I'm trying to get the sides of the front piece, you know, really close to the front piece here so that I'm not wasting a lot of fabric in between. And what I'm using to trace onto the suede is just a a ballpoint pen. I found that it worked a lot better than using chalk, and it's on the inside so no one is going to see it, so I'm not really worried about that. Once all of the pattern pieces are traced on, I then go ahead with my scissors and cut all of the suede pieces out. Here are all of the scraps from the suede that I just cut out. I'm obviously going to save all these because Aloy has a lot of scraps of just like random crap on her costume, so these will come in handy. And here are the front and the back of the suede vest pieces. I got them all clipped together, and I'm gonna pull out my sewing machine and sew them together. Now, sewing with suede can be a little bit difficult on certain machines, and to be honest, my machine just barely is able to sew suede. To make it easier for my machine to sew through this material, I make sure that I have a leather needle installed as well as a Teflon foot. I make sure to just sew very slowly. I typically like to just go like really fast with my sewing machine, but whenever you're sewing with a thicker material, it is better to just go slower and steadier and make sure that you're feeding the material as smoothly as you possibly can through the machine. Here's the front of the vest, and here's the back of the vest. And everything is just, you know, sewn together with a straight stitch. Really tried to get as close to the seam line as I possibly could. And yeah, so the thing that was going wrong with my sewing machine in the last vlog that I was talking about was 100% the fact that I didn't have like the correct needle, because this all sewed together just like a dream. I was really expecting that I was gonna have to do some stuff to my sewing machine. In fact, I sewed like one of the seams completely off camera because I really thought that I was going to screw something up. Happy to report that this is all going well. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm going to sew the back to the front of the vest, and in order to do that, I've got the back piece here. I've got the right side of the fabric facing upwards, and I've got the front of the vest here, and as you can see, this is the wrong side of the fabric, but the right sides of the fabric are both facing each other, and I'm going to clip the tops here together, sew those across, and then I'm going to clip the sides here and sew those across, and then after it's all done, I'm going to flip it all right side out, and hopefully it's going to fit me. Okay, it's like the moment of truth. Let's see if this actually fits. It should, because I did make a mock-up, but I mean, oh yeah. Oh heck yeah. Okay, I look like a cardboard box. Hold on. All right. Yes, this fits exactly how I wanted it to. A little bit loose, but it's gonna get a little bit pulled together with all of the suede lace that I'm going to be putting on it. And then I just need to cut out the sleeve caps, which I didn't do this earlier because I just wanted to make sure I got the fit of the vest all right. I also did cut the patterns just a little bit so that there was like a little bit extra fabric just in case if I needed just a little bit more coverage. We'll see what it looks like with the actual shirt on whenever I'm all done with it. I'll see if I need to like trim it just a little bit. I always like to do that. That's like one of my tips that I would give you if you're kind of new to sewing and you don't mind potentially wasting just a tiny bit of fabric. I always try to cut on the bottom, especially like where you would hem things. I like to cut them a little bit long. It's easier to obviously cut away fabric than add it back on. That's just what I've always been doing because I'm not like the world's greatest sewer. Yeah, I'm gonna take this off and get to cutting out the sleeve caps and potentially sew them on. I don't know, we'll see. I didn't even think that I was gonna sew this all together today. I thought I was just gonna cut the suede out. So for those of you that think that I am always like so excited to work on things, I'm really not. I am basically trying to get this vest and the shirt done before we leave for a trip. We're going to London. I think whenever this vlog goes up, I'll probably be back from London already. And I set a goal of getting the vest and the shirt done before we go on that trip. Today was one of those days where I really didn't want to work on anything, really didn't want to have to cut this out. But if I want to wear this costume at Dragon Con, then I've gotta start working on it. Sometimes you just have to like force yourself to do it, and then eventually you'll want to do more. Like I said, I didn't want to cut these suede pieces out, but here I am with a sewn top and really didn't expect that. So sometimes I surprise myself. Okay, so I realized like I am not entirely sure how to get out of this. I have to like contort myself to get out of it. Hold on, let's try this. Maybe this will work. Oh my god. The things we do for cosplay. For the sleeve caps, I'm actually using some of that scrap fabric that I showed earlier, and that's why it's important to save your scraps, because these sleeve caps just barely fit onto these little scrap pieces here, and I'm just tracing them again with my ballpoint pen, cutting them out, clipping them together, and then clipping them onto the actual vest itself, and then sewing that all together. We have a vest, it looks like. This sleeve over here is a little bit big, and it's mostly because I wasn't able to sew through the layers of fabric as far over as I wanted to, so I'm I'm hoping that I can figure that out and even these out a little bit, but I am pretty happy with the shape of it and how everything is fitting. It hits exactly where I want it to hit. Before I go though, I will let you know that I am going to be replacing and redoing the sleeves on this undershirt because they're just a little bit too tight. I'm not crazy about how short they are with the vest, and it's okay. I have a little bit of extra fabric, so I will just end up seam ripping these and attaching new ones. But yeah, I think that's going to be the end of this vlog. Pretty dang happy with the progress that I've got today, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye!